Welcome, everyone. I'm Amy Seeley, president of Seeley Test Pros and LEAP, helping students to succeed in all kinds of tests from 8th grade to grad school throughout Ohio.
And I'm Mike Bergen, president of Chariot Learning, helping students with test, school, and life based out of Rochester, New York.
Between the two of us today, we have over 60 years of experience at the highest levels of the test preparation and supplemental education industries.
We both love to talk and learn about the latest issues in education, testing, and admissions. So let's get down to tests and the rest. The fascinating topic we want to explore today is how the common data set can help interpret what colleges tell you. But first, let's meet our special guest, Jane Gabin.
Jane Gabin received a PhD in English at UNC Chapel Hill. She is a member of NACAC, HECA, SACAC, and the International ACAC. She currently works as an independent counselor with over 20 years in the college admissions profession. She worked for 10 years for the Office of Undergraduate Admissions at UNC Chapel Hill, where she was in charge of all international admissions and counselor relations. She followed this with 11 years in college advising at independent schools in the New York City area. She has published articles on college admissions and Ask the College Counselor, her regular column for InsideSchools.com. She has also written in Inside Higher Ed, the Academe Blog, and the College Prep Guide. Welcome.
Thank you.
Jane, it's good to have you on the show to discuss a topic that raises so many questions. So we're really going to love to get into that. But before we do, you first appeared on the podcast back in episode 328 to discuss concerns about college staffing trends.
Yeah.
At that time, you shared a bit of your bio, but for listeners who didn't listen to that, tell us what you've been up to and tell us a bit about your exciting book.
Well, mostly I'm a college counselor, and I work out of Chapel Hill, North Carolina, the home of UNC, rah, rah. But I'm... thanks to communications, advances in communications, I can practice anywhere. So I have enhanced my college counseling with specific interests, that is, in the issue of hiring. I find that colleges are still relying on vast armies of contingents. So mostly freshmen and sophomores, but until the senior year, colleges, students do not know who is going to be teaching them. It might be a graduate student, not to take away anything from competent graduate students. I taught undergraduate courses when I was a graduate student, but colleges, to save money, are relying on more and more. I have a database of 900 plus colleges with the hiring of full-time faculty and part-time faculty at my disposal. This can change at any time, but basically I got my information from the college data set. And other things that I've been doing with my time, well, I published a novel, I write fiction, I'm on the Media and Communications Board of HELU, that is Higher Education Labor United, and I'm very active in that.
That's fun. You didn't tell us about your novel. I know that you wrote The Shortest Guide to College Admissions, but is your novel something you could talk about?
Oh, definitely. I'll talk about that. The novel is much longer than the Guide to College Admissions, which I have marketed as the shortest. The title is The Shortest Guide to College Admissions.
It packs a lot of value into a petite package.
It's a small package.
In your fiction writing, what do you?
It's hundreds of it's hundreds of words long. My novel, which was published in 2018, is about my father, who served in France at the conclusion of World War II, and he wasn't in a fighting force. He set up a post office in the Gare Montparnasse, and he befriended a certain family whom I tracked down from a photo. My father's photos were available to me, but I noticed a picture I had not seen before, and that included my father in the home of civilians, and there was a young boy. There were only women in the picture, plus my father and this young boy. I traced the young boy. I found him. He was an old man, and we became friends. And I would go to him every year in Paris, and I would listen to his stories. And he would say, "I do not want to talk about the past," and then spend the next 3 hours talking about the past.
That's an amazing story. What's the title of the book?
The book is called The Paris Photo. I had to fictionalize it
Sure.
because there were certain things that I did not know about my father,
Mm-hmm.
and it was too late to ask him.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Makes perfect sense. Awesome. Let's shift gears dramatically.
All right.
Get into college admissions, specifically the common data set.
Yes.
I mean, Amy, I know that this happens to you. I talk to groups of parents all the time, and I reference the common
And
data
they've
set.
never heard of it.
They've never heard of it. They don't know how to access it. They don't know anything about this treasure trove of information. So, Jane, can you just start off the conversation by what is the common data set?
The common data set is a set of questions that each college answers. It takes 33 pages. The same information is asked for in the same order all the time. So the name, the address, who owns the school, the address of the chief administrator, and there are questions on how many students are enrolled, how many students of color, ethnic distribution of faculty, ethnic distribution of students, how many receive Pell Grants, financial aid. There, it goes in order, and you can find out if you're careful and look carefully how long the school has been in business, how many programs are given, who gets hired to teach, who is taking the courses. You can see it's fascinating. You can see how many people are enrolled in the courses, but the common data set will come with several caveats. That is, things that people have to watch for. It is one, voluntary. So two, information can be hidden. If you find a common data set, the ordinary reader will see just a bunch of numbers. But you have to have patience and go into it carefully because it contains the secrets of all the colleges.
The secrets of the
Yeah.
universe held within the numbers.
I won't say that much.
Well, I want to back up just a bit because I know you've been describing a lot of the information in the common data set, but I want to think about the fact what our audience would primarily be interested in is you're talking demographics, but lots of information about who applied, how many got in, a lot of details about who is applying, who is admitted. And so it gives families a perspective, right, on, if you got in, what could I know about the students that's colleges are accepting? I know that's a lot of what some of our listeners probably are really intrigued by. But let's talk about this idea of the common data set in terms of, I think, some of the work you've done, which is judging the value of a school. How does one sort of when somebody goes in there, how do they, it's a lot of information, as you said, 33 pages. How can someone study that to better understand the value of a school?
Well, in my book, The Shortest Guide to College Admissions.
Is your book shorter than the common data set for a university? That's the real question.
It's easier to read.
It's easier to read.
It's easier to read, and it's very conversational in tone. Mm-hmm. The common data set gives information that families will need when judging the quality of a product. So they should look at how many apply and not how many are accepted, but how many graduate. If everybody who applies in the same cohort were 4 years later to graduate, it would have a graduation rate of 100%. This is impossible to achieve. But there is a big difference between some schools that graduate 90% of their intake and 12%.
Does the common data set break out things like 4-year graduation rates, 5-year graduation
Yes,
rates?
4-year graduation rates and 6-year graduation rates. I tell applicants to look for both, and there are reasons why it takes some people 6 years as opposed to 4 years. You stop out of school, you have an illness, you switch majors, so there's a reason, and it's best to look at the 6-year graduation rate.
Nobody wants to think about that, though.
Yeah, that's what the National Student Clearinghouse tracks.
Mm-hmm.
Is the 6-year graduation rate. But it's valuable to know what percentage of students graduate in 4 years versus 5 or 6 years.
Right.
Well, very often people are focused on just the getting in, right? The getting in is the part that everybody thinks about. What they don't look at is the end result, how many leave before they graduate or how much time it takes, which I think is what you're getting at, could be a really important window into how is the college servicing those students, and are they servicing it well enough to continue to graduation?
And there's an additional, the college should have an Office of Career Services. Sometimes it's larger, sometimes it's smaller, but all colleges should have one, and they should have records. What I emphasize in the book is you should ask lots and lots of questions of your college reps. How large is this office? How accessible is it? How are students placed? Is there an interview process? How many years post graduation will it continue to look for openings?
Is the common data set a good place to both find answers for certain questions and generate better questions to ask your rep? I know that we discuss all the time that really connecting with reps at schools that you're very interested in is a critical
Yes.
component of demonstrated interest, which can be influential. So, do you see the common data set as a way for applicants to present as more engaged and interested in the school?
Yes and no. The common data set is used by applicants and not used by a larger set of applicants. So it depends on the school. Students are better served looking at colleges than universities. And a college is a school that's which emphasizes undergraduate learning and not graduate learning. There'll be more attention paid to individual students with this at the small college. Now, at the larger college, at the larger university, students have the chance to engage with a broader base of scholars, more activities, and so forth. There is more to choose from with a larger university. A lot of this will depend upon the tenacity of the individual applicant. This is not for students who are satisfied with the answers they are given. This is for students who are unsatisfied and want to go a little deeper.
Jane, what would you say are maybe the top 3 things that you think students or families should be seeking information on when they are looking at a school's common data set?
Where the teachers come from, who will be teaching the classes, how large will they be? There's a school which will go unnamed I spoke to the provost personally, and she says, "Oh, the off the street faculty." This is very dismissive, and it is indicative of the esteem in which the teaching faculty, which is the center of collegiate education, the lack of esteem with which it's viewed. They want warm bodies at the head of a classroom.
So you're saying that the common data set will break out adjunct professors versus full-time and tenured professors?
Not necessarily.
So that, but you said that that's one of the most important things to look for.
Right. So you can add, you can look at the number of full-time faculty
Mm-hmm.
and the number of part-time faculty
Right.
who are less than, are held in less esteem by the full-time faculty. But in small writing, in small print, the common data set will say, this doesn't include graduate students or teaching assistants. So you have to add in that number, and you call individual departments and you ask.
So that's like a trigger. You can look for the information, but you can also ask additional questions. So we're looking at the graduation rate, we're looking at, acceptance rate, we're looking at the dimensions of the last year's incoming class, we're looking at the composition of the faculty. I think a major question that people have is, does every school submit their common data set, and how are they enjoined to do so? Because this is not, it's not mandatory. The common data set isn't overseen by the Department of Education.
I was laughing bitterly. That's true. So I think a phone call to the common data set is called for.
What do you mean?
Okay, I can't get it right now, but the common data set comes out of a.
It's a consortium. It's overseen by a consortium of College Board,
right.
U.S. News and World Report,
right,
and
right.
Peterson's,
right.
which, that's one nonprofit, two for-profit. They engage a lot of higher education institutions, but ultimately, this is just we're volunteering to organize this information, and we want you to submit it. But does everyone submit it?
No.
Okay.
No, not every, and I would really question the veracity of a college,
because you could say anything. There's no way. Well, okay, let me ask. Instead of me saying there's no way, I'm not an expert in this specific area. Are there consequences if a college submits demonstrably false information to the common data set?
There can be consequences, whether they are, if let's say the State University of, let's say, New Jersey, let's say they did submit something that's incorrect. Is it going to stop people from applying? No, it'll be.
No, but it would definitely, I think that colleges would probably be more worried about getting on the wrong side of the U.S. News and World Report and seeing their rankings drop because they're submitting misleading information than they are concerned about getting a stern letter from the U.S. Department of Education.
Right. So, we can believe basically the information that's in the common data set, but whether we believe it or not, it's there, and it can prove that a college has no regard or little regard for what is being taught in their classrooms. When you see that a college has a larger number of contingent workers than full-time faculty. This should be a huge red flag, huge, but it's not.
Sure. So anybody can access the Common Data Set at commondataset.org. Do you have knowledge of what percentage of schools don't submit? Or are there any of the most highly selective schools that don't submit their Common Data Set?
No, the most highly selective schools all submit the Common Data Set.
They all do.
They all do. But within the Common Data Set is information that is not often talked about, and that is in the hiring of faculty.
Right.
I go on this.
No, we can tell that you're very passionate about this
Yes.
topic,
Yeah.
which is perfect for, when we had a very detailed conversation about concerns about college staffing trends, that
Right.
really digs into the issues and your concerns. In the more general, like the other things that applicants can look for, it looks to me like if you go to the Common Data Set website, anybody can access it.
Right.
In your experience as a professional, can
Mhm.
anybody understand it, or does it benefit applicants to seek out professionals who have more experience with the Common Data Set?
They only need to talk to one person who can guide them through the first time, and then my book explains this in great detail. My book of 90 pages. It's not even 80 pages. It's really short. Look at the Common Data Set. Look at the graduation rate. Look at the retention rate, and this tells you what you need to know. It also tells there's certain things that an applicant cannot control, and we know this, right? You cannot control how many other students are sending in their applications. You cannot control the college's institutional goals.
Yeah, right.
You
Critical.
You don't know what they are. You
Right.
don't know what they are, and they can say what they are, and then in their committee meetings, which are secret, they do something. So you only can control what your record is. So that is the transcript. You can control that. You can control your activities. You can control your reading. You can control the content of your essay, and you can control the relationships with the recommenders who that you ask to write letters. You can control, in a sense, your relationship with this college. If you demonstrate a strong interest, and if you have developed a strong relationship with the application coordinator, the admissions rep who comes by your school. And what my book says, in essence, is there are random decisions, and people don't like random.
It's true. Random, sometimes seemingly arbitrary, but you can dig into the Common Data Set and learn a lot about the school to at least make sure that you're submitting the best application that you can control.
Right.
It's a powerful message of agency, Jane. I know that we could talk about this topic all day. Unfortunately, we're out of time. Thank you so much for joining us.
You're very welcome.
If listeners would like to get in touch with you, what's the best way for them to do that?
By phone, 919-452-9287, or at my email address, which is Jane S. Gabin, middle initial S for Susan, Jane S. Gabin @yahoo.com. My guide, The Shortest Guide to College Admissions, is available through Amazon or at your local bookshop. And this explains in the essence what it takes to get into a university today.
Awesome. We hope you enjoyed this discussion as much as we did. Be sure to join us for another fascinating topic and guest on the next Test and the Rest.
Did you enjoy this episode as much as we did? Find expanded links and more for this and all of our episodes at our show page at testsandtherest.com. While you're there, be sure to explore everything the larger TestBright site has to offer, including real, expert, unbiased answers to the toughest admissions testing questions. Of course, we'd love for you to rate, review, and subscribe to Test and the Rest on your favorite podcast platform. If there's a topic or guest you'd like us to feature, just let us know and spread the word.